Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is Daniel McAdams, the co-host. Daniel, good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Good. Today we're going to be talking about what's going on in Baghdad and the breaching of the green zone. But before we get into that issue, Daniel has an announcement he'd like to make about our program.
Yes, I just wanted to say that according to our calculations, this is our 300th episode of the Ron Paul Liberty Report. You know, Dr. Paul, you started this show a little over a year ago when you left the Voices of Liberty. You wanted to start a new show where you could do things your way on your time and talk about the issues as they broke. And we've now had 300 episodes of that, and we've had such great growth over this past little over a year. I was looking at the stats before we started today. We have right around 39,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel, youtube.com Ron Paul Liberty Report. We've had 2.7 million views of our program, which is amazing. And we have a growing group of people watching us, commenting on what we do, correcting us sometimes and asking for more information sometimes. So I also wanted to thank all the viewers on behalf of both Dr. Paul and myself for sticking with us this past year. We're growing fast, but we also need your help to keep growing. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ron Paul Liberty Report. Tell your friends about it. We're giving you the real news, and we're doing it every day. So thanks again, and let's get on with the show.
Well, you know, I really want to thank all the staff, and you in particular, Daniel, for your help. But I think it's fascinating, but we also have to be thankful for technology, because I wasn't very anxious to leave my hometown in order to broadcast. The fact that we can do this from my hometown and our home studio here, to me, is fantastic. But we do want to talk about the issue of today, and it was the issue of the weekend. And I first have to compliment you for keeping up with this, because on the Institute for Peace and Prosperity website, it was one of the few places that anybody could read about this. And this was a major event, the green zone in Baghdad being penetrated. And this is where the embassy is, and everything else was chaos. Mosul's being challenged and all these different things. I'd like the map of the country to be put up there for a minute, just for people to review the geography of the area. So, but this was amazing, and the information, though, it's coming out more now, and the significance, of course, is what we're going to be talking about. Here you can see this map that's been around for a long time, Baghdad right in the center of Iraq, but you can see the country surrounding is significant. Everything in current policy right now, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, Iran, Turkey, and Syria. I mean, this is something, and then paid little attention, because one of the key places that the country will be dealing with, as well as the green zone, since the green zone's been penetrated, is Mosul up in the northern part, which is now controlled by ISIS. But Daniel, congratulations on you keeping up with this, and I know that it surprised you or shocked you, but overall, we shouldn't be totally shocked. It's still shocking to realize how inept our policies have been in Iraq.
Well, this, I think was inevitable. This is the slow motion Libyaization of Iraq. And there were, I was reading Ray McGovern, a friend of ours, who was commenting about what happened, and he pointed out that the surge of 2007, which is so much heralded, this saved Iraq. If it wasn't for Obama pulling us out, it would have saved it. But he pointed out the truth, which is the real purpose of the surge was to prevent what's happening now from happening while Bush and Cheney were still in office. It was a face-saving measure, and it was a slow-motion collapse that now we're seeing after this enormously psychologically significant breach of the green zone by the militia loyal to the Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr.
And I think it's amazing. There is a picture of the parliament.
Yeah.
Demonstrates so clearly on what's happening. This should wake some people up, but the people who penetrated and breached that area, al-Sadr's people, now they have left, and actually they're close allies with the Iranians, and the Iranians, of course, said, it's time to take a break. But al-Sadr is a shrewd person. He's a very religious person. But he's determined, And he backed off a few years ago to wait to see what would happen. And right now, there's a picture on the screen now about what Parliament looks like. You know, I guess it's going to take somebody to do that to our Congress before the American people will wake up. But our Congress gets inundated with bad ideas, not so much of these people doing violence. Let's hope it never comes to that. Yeah. But this is something, but there's not much reason for us to be that optimistic. You know, in a way, it reminds me of me watching closely as a Air Force officer in the 1960s. You know, we would change personnel. We'd get rid of one person and we'd have a new leader come in to finally settle it. But also, this event seems to be maybe similar to, or at least a mini Tet Offensive, because when the Tet Offensive hit at Christmas time, it was utterly amazing and shocking because it contradicted the propaganda. But isn't there some contradiction of propaganda that we just heard recently before this incident happened? Biden was just over there.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about Biden is he was meeting with this military officer and planning the storming of Mosul and getting rid of ISIS. And then a couple of days later, they storm Parliament and are dancing on this officer's desks. So it's enormously significant when it comes to that. But, you know, the U.S. has been, since the invasion of 2003, it's always been, well, we got to get rid of this guy and put a new one. First, remember, it was Chalabi, and that didn't work out. We didn't put him in because it didn't work. Then Maliki was our guy. He was going to save things. Well, that didn't work out. We had to get rid of him. They put a body in there, you know, this will save things. And Maliki's a bad guy. It's always the next guy is going to save things. But the fact is it can't be saved because this operation was doomed from the start.
Yeah, you know, they claim that there's just a few options. Our option that we're opting for right now is to have a unity government. We have to have a strong man to put this together again. They seem to resist something that if you don't have a strong central government, why don't you have smaller governments that are you know, break up the country? But no, we don't support that. But you know, it seems like that very well could be the answer. If we weren't there, outsiders weren't there, maybe they would develop that and there would be a balance of power. I mean, we don't expect that we're going to change the attitude between the Sunnis and the Shia in the near future, and the Kurds are up there and they have oil. And because of the resentment that we have caused in the death and destruction of that country, we have radicalized elements and they are able to get people, and that's why ISIS is there. You know, I was making fun, but I was kiddingly saying, bring back Saddam Hussein. I mean, it's horrible to think that Saddam Hussein provided more stability than what we have done. We've created chaos, and yet we have all these factions, and it seems like we make no progress whatsoever. And there's more violence, been more radicals there, and I don't see how that's going to go away. I don't think with this information, do you think the government of Iraq, the so-called government, is about to march into Mosul and take it back from ISIS? I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, speaking of that, you know, something that doesn't go very much commented on in the mainstream media, but the U.S. has at least 5,000 military troops in Iraq that are helping with the so-called the fight against ISIS. But remember that there is no agreement between Iraq and the U.S. in terms of stationing troops in Iraq. The status of forces agreement that was not agreed upon, that forced Obama to take the troops out, has still not been agreed upon. So there is no legal basis in U.S. law, of course, but not even in Iraqi law for the U.S. troops to be there. It's very ironic. And the reason for the green zone is so symbolic because it's so important because it's a symbol of the U.S. occupation of Iraq. It's a symbol of the lavish lifestyles led by Iraqi politicians who are propped up by the U.S., $1 trillion down the drain, and these people are living very well. It's a symbol of the corruption of the regime there in Iraq. And so to breach it and to dance around in the parliament is an enormous victory. And you know, here's another irony. Think about this scenario. A corrupt and hated government and a group of people protesting that corruption come in and occupy the parliament. It could be Iraq, but a couple of years ago it was Ukraine, and we celebrated the color revolution of these people. But now, since the Sadr's people are not our guys, they're the bad guys. And so, same scenario, but different people.
Well, since al-Sadr is, friendly with the Iranians, it's interesting. I'm sure the Iranians are cheering, but at the same time, once this chaos broke off, it was the advice of the Iranian government to tell al-Sadr back off a little bit, and they did. They left the green zone. But they also promised what? That they'll be back. We'll be back if it's necessary. So, we team up with almost anybody and everybody if we think it's in our best interest, and it's never in our best interest just by being there. But, like in Syria, we team up, or at least turn a blind eye to what ISIS is doing, because they might do something that we want them to do, like help get rid of Assad. But right now, ISIS is there in Iraq, but it's not likely that they would be doing anything in Iraq like we wanted them to do in Syria that would help us out. I mean, we're supposed to be in charge of our leader, but I don't know what our response would be of al-Sadr. What if al-Sadr becomes the leader, of the country? That's who's storming, and they have hundreds, but they said tens of thousands of people who are rebelling against the government. Is always the corruption that they're complaining about.
Well, here's another irony. The same Iranians that the U.S. is, at least by proxy, attacking in Syria, it's actually by proxy supporting in Iraq, because it is the Iranian militias who are fighting ISIS most effectively. So, ironically, Sadr's rise would be to the expense of ISIS in Iraq. That's how confusing it is.
Well, okay, what do you think Saudi Arabia is thinking about right now? I'm sure they're paying attention, and I don't know whether they have any elements in there right now, or they're just standing by watching.
Well, they've certainly long been supporters of al-Qaeda and ISIS. We know that for a fact. It's not a conspiracy theory, but I'm sure they're very nervous, because this is a genuine groundswell of emotion. This is the pent-up resentment of 13 years of U.S. occupation, of corrupt governments. Just like if we lived under the heels of some other foreign government for 13 years, this is the pent-up resentment, and it's coming out, and who knows where it will lead. I think the genie is just getting out of the bottle. There's no telling where it goes.
And they would strongly oppose a stronger Shia government that is more closely and openly aligned with Iran, which everybody knows, but the Iranians seem to be acting like moderates right now on this. But I would think they'd be very concerned about that, because the big fight going on in the Middle East is the Persians against the Saudi Arabians, and oil is a big thing, and I think that's going to be around for a while.
And from what we've heard, the Sadr is threatening to go back in on Friday if necessary. So within the next few days, I think we're going to have some dramatic developments in Iraq.
Yeah. And so far, it hasn't affected the price of oil. So, well, I might qualify that a little bit. Oil prices were destined to start up again, and they have significantly. I just saw this morning that the best thing to own in the last month was oil, and everybody now. And I think gold was about second place there. So the world is responding to disruptions around the world, even though the American people haven't heard much about it and they don't care that much. But it is very significant, and it's going to affect oil. It's going to affect our pocketbook. It's going to affect our economy. And once again, there's these details that we look at, but overall, the only thing that counts is a policy. What is our position? What should our role of government be with the people? Is the government there to protect our liberties? What should the government be in the role of manipulating the economy? And what should our government be doing internationally? And of course, the consensus right now is that if you listen to so much of the primary discussion, it's more, more, more. It's not we're doing too much. It's not. Isn't it time to downsize the military? Isn't it time to spend less on the military and more on our people here at home? No, those discussions aren't there. But these decisions will be made. We're getting closer and closer. When it breaks out in the Middle East or wherever, or Ukraine or someplace, we will be forced into making some very, very significant decisions. And sometimes these move along rather rapidly. And of course, on the weekend, I got to thinking, well, this is a big event. I just wonder what it'll lead to. So maybe in this week, we'll see some more interesting and exciting and scary things happening. But I do want to thank everybody for tuning in to this 300th program of ours today, and please come back soon.